Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to our energy report for February. Can you believe that we are in February already? My name is Sue Schoening. I'm from the Soul Lighthouse. Every month we get together and we have a look and see what is the energy like for the month that we're about to go into. Well, here we are and we're about to go into February. And I don't know about your January, but my January was one of these months where I sat down on the 1st of January. I thought that I'd worked for a couple of hours, and when I looked up, here we were on the 31st of January. It's like the entire month went by in a flurry of work harder, there's more to be done, there's more to be done, there's more to be done. And I've spoken to so many people who've said exactly that thing. It's like this energy that hit us in January was all about here. There's an enormous amount of work that needs to be done, loads of deadlines, loads of pressure, loads of overwhelm. Knuckle down and get the work done. And we have been in a space where we've been working incredibly hard. Some of us have been exceptionally productive, got an enormous amount of work done, but oh my word, the pace has been insane. And I've spoken to so many people who said the month has whizzed by, but it feels like we've done 6 months worth of work and we're only 30 days into the year. So this really has been an energy where we felt this 2020 energy coming in with a vengeance. Now, at the beginning of the year, I did a whole webinar of what 2020 was all about. And if you haven't yet had a chance to watch that video, I suggest you take some time and go and have a look, because we talk about the blanket energy of what we can expect through as we go through this energy of 2020. And I always believe forewarned is forearmed. If we know what's coming, if we know how to work with it, if we know where the tide is pushing us, then we know what it is that we need to do. If you already know whether the weather's going to be hot and cold, you know how to dress for the occasion. So when you've got some time, give yourself a little bit of time and just go and look at that webinar and see what the blanket energy of 2020 is about. But just for a very quick recap, that 2020 energy is, if you look there, it adds up from a numerological perspective to a 4. You take the 2 and the 2 and you get that 4. And that 4 energy, it's all about balance. It's hardworking. It is an energy that really, really thrives on routine. It wants to know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by, and then go away and let me get on with the work. It is an energy that's incredibly reliable, incredibly responsible. The focus is on productivity, the focus is on labor, and the focus is on getting stuff done. It's a very, very hard working, very diligent energy. And this is a word you're going to hear again and again and again as we go through this year. It's a very hard working energy, and it's going to ask us to get into the groove, to knuckle down, to get stuff done. But it's not just, rut of working and nothing else, because we have a very strong 2 energy throbbing through this year. And that 2, we talk about the 2 as a feminine energy. We talk about it as a sacred feminine. And that 2 energy is friendly, is understanding, tactful, gentle, diplomatic in the extreme, doesn't like confrontations, doesn't like conflicts, likes to keep the peace. And so it's this energy that would rather step away from conflict, would rather step away from confrontation, would rather be more compliant, and would rather give in order to keep the peace. And so we have this energy where it's all about balance, and it's all about hard work, and it's all about structure and get the work done. But we also have this very, very beautiful energy that says, can we actually build a good team while we're doing it? Can we actually have a harmonious working environment while we're doing it? So it's a very beautiful, very strong energy in its power. But the danger of this is that because the focus, the overt energy is so focused on work, that we can get sucked into work and that's all we do. A bit like me being guilty of, as we went through January, was sitting down and just working. Now, sure, I got an enormous amount of work done, but I didn't get much of anything else done. And so we have to be very mindful as we go through this year that first and foremost, 2020 is asking us to stay in balance. And because this year is so very hard working, and because it's so very, very focused in on what are you doing and what's the outcome and what's the deliverable and where's the deadline and what's the productivity, it can be easy to get sucked into this energy where it's just work and nothing else. And of course, we know that all work and no play just creates lots of dysfunction in other areas of our lives. We have to be very conscious, we have to be very mindful to keep the balance at work, at home, in our health, with our nutrition, with our exercises, to be in that space where we consciously try to mold a life of balance. 2020 has one question that it keeps top of mind, and that is, where is the balance in all of this? Where is the point of balance in all of this? And we need to keep mindful of this energy. So I want you to remember that as we're going through tonight. Where is the point of balance? So let's look at what February is all about. So February, yeah, it's got that energy of 2020, resonating there with that 4 energy as we've just spoken about. But February has a 2 energy from a numerological perspective. So now you can see there, we've got all the 2s. So we've got the 3 2s there. So there's a lot of energy that's coming through on gentleness, on diplomacy. Can we just be a bit more tactful? Can we understand things a little bit? And we add that 2 and that 4 together, and what do we end up with is, of course, the 6. Now, there are some very powerful energies, both positive and negative, associated with this. So let's have a look and see what it is about as we go into February. The real power of the 6, the absolute power of the 6, is that in her fullness, in his fullness, it is the healer, the counselor. It is an incredibly supportive energy. It is the coach. It is the psychologist. It is the person who goes out of their way to understand how somebody else is feeling and is able to be incredibly supportive. It's empathic. It's compassionate. It's gentling. It's humanitarian based. And so we often find these people are very, very good at bringing relationships together because they have this natural empathy, they have this natural compassion, and they have this natural ability with counseling, with coaching, with healing. We have people who are in this 6 energy. They are home-based, they are domesticated. Now, I have a lot of 6 energy going on, so it's no surprise to you when I tell you, I'm in the healing area, the counseling area, the coaching area, that I do an enormous amount of work with relationships and focusing in on relationships. But I do it at home because there's my domesticated goddess who is in her absolute element where she does all of this work from home. This is an energy here. It is responsible. It's reliable. It is present. So you can see why this would be successful as a coach, because it is all about being in service to others, the rescuer, the healer. This is this energy where we see that 6 at its element. Now, that picture that I've just put up on the screen there, I had to put it up because it just appealed to the 6 energy inside of me, this domestic, home-based 6 energy inside of me, because there is nothing better than sitting in my PJs with my slippers on in front of the fire with a nice hot cup of hot chocolate. That is just glorious home-based 6 in her element. So as you look at those qualities that are on the screen right now, you can see this is a very, very beautiful energy. It's healing. It's all about the relationship. It's all about together. It's very inclusion. It is all about empathy and understanding and compassion and what is good for everybody. It's responsible, it's reliable, it loves to be in a space of service to others. But you know as well as I do that there are always the flip side. So let's have a look and see some of the pitfalls of this energy, of what to be aware of the not so good energies that we might be seeing this month. That six energy in its not so good phase is oh so stubborn. It is spectacularly stubborn, rigid to the point of being completely intolerant of anything that it doesn't want to acknowledge or try. It often is so very close-minded and so very narrow focused that it refuses to even consider anything different, because this is the way it is. And sometimes it can be a tad superior because, you know, I'm the coach, I'm the counselor, and I'm obviously telling you this is the way it needs to be, and I can see what it is you need to do, and why aren't you following my advice when clearly it's the best? And so out of balance, this energy can be very interfering, very controlling, very superior, and meddling in other people's experiences, trying to control other people's situations. And then when they don't do it, can be critical, can be judgmental, can be exceptionally belittling. I told you to do this. Why aren't you doing this? What's wrong with you? Clearly it's the best step for you. Six in this energy can be possessive, it can be pessimistic, doom and gloom, and see the dark side of the tunnel always. It can be pedantic. You know, there's the three P's together: possessive, pedantic, pessimistic. So you can see these are not that vibrant. If in its power, this energy is all about supporting and lifting and underpinning and understanding, and with empathy and compassion. Out of balance, this energy is the enabler, it's the martyr, it's the codependent. And so it is just as relationship focused, but it's the shadow of that relationship. It often tends towards procrastination. It comes a little bit from being superior, leads it to perfectionist. It has to be right the first time, so we end up just not doing it at all, and hurtling into self-judgment. And so some of these are the things that we need to be very aware of, that are lurking in the shadows as we go through, particularly the first part of February. So just be very aware that it is a beautiful energy. It's a very strong energy, but it has a number of pitfalls as we go through. It is critical to everybody this month that you ground and ground and ground, and you find some way of bringing your energy back to balance. Because with this energy of the 4 that's pushing us into hard work, and with the energy of the 6 that is all about the relationship, whether that's at work or at home or the family or your lover or your spouse, so it's all focusing on the relationship and being in this space, we need to be super careful that we keep in a space of balance. Now, for me, the best thing is to go for a walk. I'm surrounded by German forests, and so for me, the best thing to go and walk in the trees and just to breathe in and to ground and feel the earth beneath me. But find your pace. What is right for you? How do you unwind? Do you walk by the river? Do you sit in the sunshine? Do you have a cup of coffee out in the garden? What is it that will help you to just come to a point where you say, this moment, just this moment, I'm going to focus in only on this moment? Because grounding is one of the resources and the tools that we need as we go through this month. So, as you know, when we're talking about energy, it's not ever just what you see on the surface. It's like an onion, you know, you peel it and there's all sorts of different layers as you go down. And so, yes, we've got this 4 energy, we've got the 2 energy, we've got the 6 energy, we've got all of these things throbbing through this month. But what we also need to be aware of is that Saturn is running the show. From a Vedic astrology perspective, Saturn moved into Capricorn on the 24th of January. So if you've been feeling that things have been a tad intense this last week, then you're right on the money, because Saturn really has just added in this overwhelming pressure and come on and get things done. And if you've been feeling that this last week has been a bit unsettled, then this is why. Because Saturn is conservative, it's traditional, it's hard working. It really, really is hard working. It likes to know that it's getting the job done. Well, guess what? It's right at home in Capricorn, which is what? Hard working, which needs to know that it's getting the job done, which guess what? Is right at home with the 4 energy of 2020 and is just resonated through February as well with the 6 energy. So again, there is this whole energy of knuckle down, get the job done. Be traditional, be conservative in your thinking. Don't color outside the lines, just do what needs to be done. And you can understand that sometimes that's a bit rigid, sometimes it's a bit tight, and sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. So if you've been in a space where you've been feeling tight and rigid and like there's just so many deadlines and you can't see your way through, then this is where we're at the moment. Saturn moved into Capricorn. We're in a space where there's just like, what is going on? And in fact, everybody I've spoken to this week has turned around and said, what is going on? It's intense. It's super intense. This is why. Okay, so from now until we get to the full moon on the 9th of February, really be aware that the theme that we have is conflict versus complacency, control versus compliance. So our 2 energy, remember we've got all of these 2s throbbing through this month, really likes to keep the peace. It really doesn't want confrontation. It really, really just wants to understand and get on with, and can we all be friends, and can we get the job done, and can we not be conflicted? That's the energy that is there. But this energy of Saturn and Capricorn and the 2020 overt energy is, can we control this? Can we manage this? Can we get this, get this deadline done? So there's a lot of control that's going there. And you know that when we're in a space where things are being so controlled on the one level, but we're trying to keep the peace on the other, that we end up avoiding conflict out there and creating it in here. We end up keeping the peace out there and being in a space of disharmony and imbalance in here. And so it is really, really important that we stay mindful of that. Sometimes as we're avoiding confrontation out there and going along with what everybody else is wanting, because we don't want to rock the boat, that we're causing an enormous amount of conflict inside. That sometimes when we're in a space where we're trying to hyper control the situation so that we can stay safe, that what we're doing is we're actually squeezing the life out of it so that we don't need to make any changes. Conflict versus complacency, control versus compliance. And this is what we need to know. Control comes from the need to be able to manage a situation. If I can manage it, I can predict the outcome. If I can predict the outcome, then I'm safe. So whenever we're in this knee-jerk reaction to control the life out of everything, we need to ask ourselves, what about this is making me feel unsafe? If there is massive amount of anxiety that's going on because you feel things are unmanageable, you need to ask yourself, what is the point of where I'm feeling unsafe? And remember, the question is, what do I need to do to bring this into balance? What do I need to do to bring this into balance? So moving on, if you have been feeling over the last couple of days, if you've been feeling inspired and so creative, out the box creative, but oh so lazy and just unable to get things going, and you're bang on target. If you have been feeling that you're driven, there's so much to do and it's got to be done now, but you're going round and round and round in circles, and it's kind of like a Groundhog Day. You're in good company. And right on this point, I actually need to make a confession. This is the third time that I'm recording this, because the first time I recorded it, the sound didn't work. The second time I recorded it, the sound was all sketchy. And so here I am having a Groundhog Day recording this video for you. So it is this driven need to get it out, but oh my word, there's this going around in circles that I'm experiencing. So fingers crossed that this one works. If you are feeling full of love and compassion and understanding and empathy for your fellow man, 1 minute, and then the very next find yourself in a space of irritation and frustration and what are you thinking in the next, you are bang on target. Just be gentle with yourself. Please be gentle with yourself. Don't hurtle into judgment or self-judgment or tolerance or intolerance of yourself. This is very appropriate for where we are right now. Be careful. Be so careful as we go through the next 10 days, specifically all the way through to the full moon, of self-judgment, self-criticism, and self-flagellation. You know, we're so good at punishing ourselves. We're so good at telling ourselves we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not clever enough, not thin enough, all of these things. Be very, very careful of being in that space of sucked down into self-judgment and self-criticism. Give yourself a break every now and then. You know, every time you find yourself in a space where you are tempted to go into punishment or judgment, find yourself in a space where you actually stop, center. I honor you where you are right now. And be careful, be mindful to be in a space, no matter what you're dealing with. I honor myself where I am right now. This is an energy that says, don't control every little thing, because that's going to get us into this whole space of intolerance and judgment and superiority, and it's got to be this way and it can't be the other way, and closed-minded and rigid thinking, and that's just such an uncomfortable place to be. So let's not go down that space. We are not meant to over-control every little thing. This one's a biggie. Don't run yourself ragged with inner conflict of what you should be or shouldn't be, or where you should be by now, or because you'll just go on this circle of shame and blame and guilt, and that's just a no. That's just a one-way ticket, as we all know, into despair and into, oh, I'm just so hopeless that here I am and I should have been famous by now, or I should have been successful by now, or my career should be at a different level by now, or I should be married or thinner, or I should have more money by now, and what's wrong with me? Just don't do that to yourself. And be careful of giving in and giving up, because that way just takes us into a space of compliance and complacency, and you know what happens then? We end up in a space of self-conflict. So these are things that we need to be very, very careful of as we go through, particularly from now until we get to the full moon. So that is in essence what you need to be aware of for the next 2 weeks. And I promise you, I will be back with you to give you a heads up as we go into the second part of February. Before I close, I've got a really great course starting on Sunday, the 2nd. I'm so excited about this because we are putting all the material together, and we're just having such a great time putting the material together. There's still time for you to sign up. So if you haven't yet signed up, if you'd like to, we're going to be learning about intuition. We're going to be learning about expanding your consciousness, growing your psychic toolbox, learning how to see energies, learning how to read the aura. How fabulous is that? So if you would like to come and join us, the link is below here in the text below. Still time to join up. The more the merrier. We'd love to have you. I promise you, you're going to have some great times, because I'm loving putting the material together. I'm really enjoying that. But as I close, if you would like to know how this energy resonates with your unique blueprint, get hold of me and we can set up a Vedic session and let's just have a chat and see how this energy dances with your unique blueprint. But that's it for me. If you like the video, please hit like, please hit subscribe because it really means so much to me. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend and just really look after yourself as we go from now into the full moon. Have a good one. Bye for now.